Yeah, I mean. The mark on a couple of the slides, it said the park not used very much. I think it is used. Probably more so than Bluff or Herman.
Memorial. You talking Memorial?
Yeah,
It certainly used a bunch in the kitty part, didn't it?
yeah.
Yeah,
I think when we said that, we were talking about, I thought, the middle portion
and the north end.
and the north, unless you
Right.
see the Amish kids playing ball, that
Well,
doesn't seem to be too many people.
Well, we had the T-ball and first stage after that, ball players over there
Little League,
from Custer County, yeah.
I think they're gone, aren't they?
No, they use it sometimes, they prefer using the Silver Cliff ones, but if the Silver Cliff ones are being utilized by the bigger kids and stuff, then they'll come down to ours and use ours. And I got a lot of them weeds out of there. It's looking better, trying to get the grass to grow, but
Well, I think at this point, what I was thinking we would be talking about today is you have said that people want to put memorial trees in,
yeah,
and I don't know if you remember, Neil, we broke the thing into 3 zones,
yeah.
right? The higher use kitty area, the middle zone was more trees, more benches, more lay around on the little mounds, and then the last one would be up where the ballpark is, and we're gonna put a big hill there. At this point, I think the only thing we're talking about is if we're getting people offering trees, 2 things come to mind. Where would we put them? And secondly, to do that, we need to know where the irrigation is and where, at least a rough idea where all the paths would be. And the reason on the agenda, I said something about projects that maybe the town could do is you guys made that path on Bassett, right?
Mm-hmm.
We had talked in the past, if the time and budget was around, but if it didn't require tons of engineering, could we lay some paths out in that middle section? And even if we didn't lay them out, we need to know where we think we want them, or we don't know where to put the trees.
Do we still have a Memorial Park Committee?
We have the west, oh, you mean from the town point of view? I don't
No, I
think
think,
so.
yeah, I think that it all became this
I
committee.
think it's us.
It's us,
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, I don't know if the, VFW or somebody pays attention to it, but it's never come to my attention. Okay,
Well, the plan was sort of presented, Neil, and I don't know what that means in perpetuity of anything, is that we're going to be looking at is what the Board of Trustees sort of signed off on and adopted in their meeting when it was presented. Now, I don't think, as I've observed, just because it's presented and adopted doesn't mean that in 5 to 10 years that will be the actual plan. But it's nice to have an idea of where to start. And I'm given this, if you don't mind, Mark, me
no,
sharing this.
absolutely.
I've given the idea of people wanting to donate trees. It's a shame to turn them away, but they have also, the ones that have approached me have been informed, well, we have a bigger plan for the future. And we also, in order to implement that, would have to do something like you said,
Yeah.
path construction and irrigation. And even if we did it in phases, even if we did just the south end where the playground is, and that is essential, expanding that playground to almost twice the size that it is. If that is what they accepted and they did, then the ideal thing in my mind would be to consider planting trees at the perimeter of where that would be, or at the perimeter of where the north end of that is, and where it exists now, which is about this line. And consider when you develop the second part to have that be a step up, or have a little division from the 2 areas of the park and use that for trees interspersed within the play area, shading some of that for the kids playing there.
Yeah, we talked about two things, actually,
Yeah,
interrupting you, is we definitely thought the parents needed more shade, let alone the kids down.
right.
And then we did figure that it may well be, we're gonna do this in steps, and they may be baby steps. So as long as they fit into a bigger scheme,
Yeah,
I mean, the bigger scheme, which was approved by the board in general, was not down to where trees were and all that.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't think we need to take these decisions to the highest order if you two see sense in what's being proposed as practical and so forth. I mean, we need to report to the board of trustees, but in advice. I mean, having said all that, if we decide where we want these trees, I think I'll have to do a report to the board and get them to know. But the important thing to me is that it's doable. And it fits into the scheme of things.
and keeping them, keeping any trees donated on that southern end. To me makes sense, because that would be the logical place to start, the logical place to start implementing all of these steps.
Yeah, and we always said that would be the case, didn't we?
Yes,
That we would start on the south.
and then the problem becomes, what areas do we want to keep open?
Right.
As open spaces for volleyball and those sorts of activities that take place now.
The kids council currently uses, put up their tile in, water slip and slides and all that kind of stuff for their events.
And where do they build that stuff?
They put it in Memorial Park in that center section.
I'm doing over there. It's gonna eliminate
They can't,
things like that.
yeah, they
We'll
won't
have to go over to the other part.
Yeah.
And, that's the hermit part, the big grassy areas that are in perpetuity for soccer. Could certainly be intermittently used for events like that, because it is a nice flat and will remain, as I understand, because of the rights given to the town to develop that, will remain soccer fields. Am I speaking out of?
It was originally planned as a multi-purpose field. Because the grant that we had to get, we had this call it a multi-purpose field, but it was basically a soccer field, yes.
Well, that fits. I mean, so the other thing is,
Yeah.
nobody's being super hard here, but we did say with time, we thought permit would be more group activity stuff. Because of the open space. We're not saying we're gonna preclude stuff to be tough people
Yeah.
in Memorial, but we did say we figured Memorial would be more along shade, picnic tables, small groups doing their summertime thing. With room for volleyball, and in fact, I think you might point out, we ought to have two, so we don't kill the grass where they existing and so forth. But that maybe the more groupy things would tend to migrate.
You could do the volleyball and actually go ahead and fill it full of sand, and do a concrete edge around it, fill it full of sand, instead of having grass.
Could be,
Gotta clean the cat litter out.
Yeah,
yeah.
I know about that.
And
I think people use it this year.
Yeah, and I think it would be appropriate maybe to, as it develops, to wait and see how it's used. And if the grass were to die, then address it at that time, but hope to keep some grassy areas now that are in existence, especially under and around the trees. And so where those trees are and where that, it's my proposal for the committee to consider where the trees exist now in the southern part, where the playground area is now would be the focus of where to accept any donations of trees. It seems logical to me, but you all may see it a different way.
Well, I think we gotta be in a position to accept donated trees, right? It's a small town and it's meaningful to a lot of people.
But we need to make sure that we just don't allow anybody to come over there and throw trees.
Well, I'm saying we define where the zone is. And then within that, they can think about it, but they're gonna need approval from Neil or from us or somebody to say, yeah.
Well, and a lot of these towns, when you do it's memorial trees like that, they usually require you to be a resident of the area for X number of years, just like a Parker, 25 years at the cemetery. If you just moved in all of a sudden, you want to be buried at Parker Cemetery, can't do it. You have to be a resident for a long time and, you just don't want anybody, a cousin come up, oh, I want to put a tree over there because I want to remember my brother, who never comes up here anyways. But, we need to put some rules in place on that. Otherwise, you have people wanting to throw trees in there everywhere.
Well, I
And
guess,
what happens when you run out of room?
well, what I'm saying is. It wouldn't be a free for all. I'm proposing that we figure out areas that would be useful. And then any individual would have to abide by some rules that we set in the future. The board, I think, do that. Well, we could recommend it.
Yeah, we could recommend.
Not to be an ordinance. So. The other thing, Neil, I'm wondering about is, I'm not trying to get off this topic, but I said on the agenda, what, if anything, can the town do on its own? We have 40 grand for the hermit toilet. I know the board is nervous about how this year is gonna work out on tax and all that income, because that's sales tax, their biggest source of income, other than grants. So if we're gonna do anything to Memorial, does that mean we give up on the hermit toilet this year, or what?
Well, how does the master plan fit into all this?
They've not ever, have they put out, you might know, have they put out the final version? And I don't think it.
No, it's not final thing.
Well, I think it's the.
It's
the
been
last one
approved
was-
by the board. There were a couple of changes they wanted to make to it, which was just adding the stuff that the library put in, and then I have to make it 80 compliant, and it's been approved by the board of trustees.
So is
The
that
planning,
master
No, the
plan,
board of trustees. You guys approved of it. Yeah,
I thought we did too.
yeah, you did.
is that
Definitely did. It's
I
been
mean,
months.
I've been on that.
is that the master plan that was approved and we have the booklet for it was 2022?
No, it was approved this year, a few months ago. It has not been printed out. And it hasn't been published to the website yet, but it has been approved by the board. It's basically finalized. There were just a couple of things that they wanted me to add.
So when would we be able to get a copy of that, do you know, or will
Um,
we see it on the website?
Let's see. Soon, I would say within the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
What's the cut in about parks, anything?
Yeah, it's got a lot of this.
I mean, detailed stuff or just Jim?
Pretty detailed.
Yeah,
I like
it's
this
detailed.
stuff here.
It doesn't have pictures like that. It's more like, these are the things that we wanted to do. This is high priority. This is like, we give it priority. They gave it a priority 1 through 5 of how soon they wanted to accomplish it. And then we were going to be like, make a calendar on that, based on that. With deadlines so that we could try to keep track of what the town wants to do. If it's been done, and then planning commission would follow up with the board every quarter. According to these dates and priority of,
So to answer your question, I'm not sure where the bathroom plan is on the master plan. Or if
I don't,
Memorial Park was gonna get this extensive of overall.
mm-mm.
I know the playground equipment is starting to delaminate, fall apart. So we were looking into. Service life on that. When do we expect it to go out? And I believe it's pretty soon.
Yeah, and there's nothing in the grant language that says that we have to keep it any longer.
So they put it in 2017. It's typically they're 10 years from it.
Mhm.
And it's gone past that. So. For the safety and welfare of the children, if it's starting to delaminate, our insurance company has recommended that we pull it from service if we can't do minor repairs to, prevent injuries. So,
Is this all the equipment or just some of it?
Right now, it's the great big one with three different size of slides,
Right.
so that walking surface
Mhm.
is delaminating from the metal framework. And that's gonna be a foot catcher,
Mhm.
you know. Cut your toes, cut your feet,
Is that a
catch your clothes and stuff like that.
homemade fix on that? Yeah.
We can, we have it on our list to do. Right now, we can't do it while it's wet. We have to get it dried out, cleaned off, wire brushed a little bit, put some poly on it to reseal it, get it back to the metal and stuff.
Well, so you don't think you have to replace the,
Not right now, but it will need to be in the future.
Might be out new decking at least.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at least the walking surfaces, probably.
If I could ask a question about the replacement equipment. Originally, the old photos of the card showed all of those to be wooden structures. So wooden structures are very hard to maintain as well, and that's why it's replaced with plastic. Is that the continued thinking of the town?
I believe that's the standard now, is the plastic with metal framework. This is stuff that we have now. It seems to last longer, say, for the little ones, wood splinters and fall apart. Constantly having to
Crafts.
slack it, paint it, fix cracks. So yeah, I don't foresee wood coming back.
But maybe a different type of
Engineered or something, yeah.
that was more UV resistant,
Yeah.
being the way to go for this altitude.
Yeah, and I believe that SoCo or Colorado Outdoors, different places like that, they help fund some of those.
That's,
programs.
yeah, that's what funded this one. It's something that we could look at maybe next year for a grant, but probably not this year, but not this year.
So if we're gonna get replacing playground equipment, we ought to go ahead and figure out then what we're gonna do with these area over there where the equipment is going to go. So we should plan on expanding the sand play area and that whole area.
Well,
Because I mean, they were planning on doubling the size of it. So we don't wanna put in new equipment and then go in there and
right,
expand the play area.
right, that's what I'm saying. I don't know where it falls into the master plan, so.
So
The bases also are too compact, so we don't have the right material for the base. We got little bitty pebbles, rocks in there, that's getting too compact. It's not safe for the kids, they recommend the rubber mulch. It just stays
Yeah.
looser longer, it's more absorbent on impact if they fall off of those things, stuff like that, so. Less injuries.
it also seems to me, why I brought this up was, what, if anything, could we do within existing budgets that don't require an engineering firm and grants and all that? I mean, a lot of what was in here is subject, could need a lot of money, right? So it's grants and some. And I think we had said last fall, when the board approved this park plan, that we weren't going to pursue anything aggressive in 2025. It would be 2026.
There's no money to do anything this year.
Yeah,
Right.
so I guess I'm suggesting that we're tight with whatever we can do. And it's be pretty modest stuff.
Right.
That makes sense.
It makes sense, but
What's that?
like maintaining the stuff that we have for another year.
Yeah.
We could go ahead and start figuring where these trails are gonna go. Cause I mean, unless we're gonna gut the whole sprinkler system. Which I don't think you wanna tear up the ground and put new lines in and everything else.
I'm fixing it on right now, because they get full of muck and crack and freeze and break and.
So you're recommending that when we do this, we replace the sprinkler system?
Well, it would have to be modified to match whatever scheme you're going to do, but right now, I don't have any plans to. Modify any of the sprinkler system, just repair it so that it works and actually waters the grass.
Mhm.
Let's basically that system in with inferior pipe with the main line, so it's
Schedule 30 instead of
Yes.
schedule 40.
really thin.
It's only a foot deep.
Yeah, why is that?
I don't know.
Because there was Because it was cheaper,
Yeah,
and that's why they did it.
when
So
did
if
they
it
do
doesn't
that?
have slope and
That's
drain
when.
valves, bound to
Did they
free.
put that line in?
I don't know
Yeah.
when they put that in, it's been in a long time, it's probably
It's been in since I've been here. So that's 20,
1998 or something,
Wow.
I don't know.
Are there any drain valves on?
There is.
But if there's goo in the lines, they probably don't work it.
Condensation builds up in them too,
Hmm.
but they're not very deep, they're only a foot
Right.
deep, and then when we have people that wanna use the park and start staking down their
Mhm.
tennis courts and volleyball nets and bounce houses and slip and slides, well, they end up punching holes in the, that's.
same thing in the buffers.
Yeah.
So minor improvements to the south side and possibly deciding on following the plan somewhat in the center area could allow the establishment of few trails and a larger perimeter for the play zone. And the play zone could be, I mean, if we are adding that northern half to what exists, it could be of a different, I mean, it could be that step up with a little wall with the perimeter and being filled with rubber mulch. Now, does rubber mulch work in this environment as far as blowing away? Or,
What's the school got? Is it rubber mulch or
Rubber mulch is black, it's usually too hot in the summertime for them.
Yeah.
In the wintertime, it's nice because it absorbs that sun and melts off the snow quicker.
I was doing a research project for our homeowners association playground area we have there. And there are multicolors that you can now get. Of course, it's all budget dependent. And but there really are some pretty things, including which some of the parks have gone to just matting larger areas as opposed to the mulch, where it's just a nice absorbent mat that the equipment, and I know nothing about
It's
how
more
much
expensive.
is it to
Yeah.
mat it.
Yeah, it is. It supposedly lasts a little bit longer, but it is a lot to put in.
Which is this?
Mat.
Rubber mat.
And I noticed even at Pathfinder Park, I went back by and checked to see how it did after about 3 winters, because they developed that originally. And you can see some areas on matting that's starting to wear. Yeah, which is a real problem here with our even more harsh sun.
Yeah. So the current playground rubber mulch estimate is 24,000.
So then you're up to 50 if you wanted to double.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gosh.
Well, once we get the master plan. And if we're for sure gonna modify this park to that extent, then. Donated trees could be put around perimeters to start around the fence areas, but I have sprinklers right along the fence, so it's gotta be inset a little ways.
And to where the root growth doesn't then destroy your sprinkler system as
Or the
well.
fence.
Well, we had talked about. We had the darn TV doesn't work. See this tree right here? The area to the west of the playground and some areas to the north of expanding shade there in general. For the sake of the parents picnicking and all this. Are we saying at this time, if we do have people wanting to donate and subject to coming up with some rules, can we say there's just a couple of zones here that we'll consider in general? Or are we gonna walk out of here without any findings at all?
I think that's the most logical, really, thing to do, to look at it and again, go perhaps back on site. On a nicer day and just decide
Oh,
that along this side,
Uh-huh.
that we could put some, and even some more in this area, that we noticed that the parents set behind the bathroom structure for shade.
Right.
So,
Shade block also.
yeah, so something, you know, that extends out from that a little bit, based on that in the summer, our sun's gonna be, you know, where the sun's going to be, where the shade will be cast, is certainly something to take into consideration planting these trees.
You know, and I'm kind of a. I don't know if I'm a nutcase on this, but I built a couple solar. And what people don't seem to realize is, let's say that's true north. In the summer, the sun's coming up where you're sitting darn near, and it's got a low ever climbing arc, and it cooks things. And then, you know, it gets up to 70 degrees at the hottest day. And then it does the same thing in the other direction. And a lot of houses are hot because of the heat coming in the east and west. And it's easier to shade the south because the sun's so high in the summer. All you need is a couple of feet of overhang. So I've often thought that if we do clusters of trees, they ought to take into account, particularly the afternoon sun, as much as the noon.
Yeah, it was definitely hotter. The days are already.
Sure.
But it's, well, you have the diagram now, I believe in another photo, you've got, the volleyball nets in there, got,
That's only because it's there, Neil.
well, I know, but you also had, was it horseshoe pits? I believe I saw horseshoe pits. So you kinda gotta figure out where that stuff is gonna be, and then know where your tree open area is.
Or we do the opposite.
Plant the tree and then figure out where to put the.
Well, plan the trees at least, lift it out. And then refine it.
Wrong. It's my gut reaction to say, if we set parameters for donations on trees, I mean, it's kind of odd in a way to put one tree somewhere. It's almost like if you want a little memorial area and you're making a donation or you're picking a tree, that appropriate trees and groupings of trees, this little group of trees or forest trees or shrubs or whatever would be more than someone bringing in $150 tree. Well, you know, it's.
Well, absolutely, that's what I'm saying, I think I call them zones,
Right.
we need some zones. And within that, we'll wait and see what happens, but that's where it's. Wow,
We also need to find out where our sidewalks and everything are gonna.
well, so I was
So,
saying earlier, yeah.
Clean walks, trails.
I mean, if we were to use this as an example of where we want the sidewalks.
Well, we always said,
We could grid it all off and then actually go out there and shook it, and then get somebody to fly over it. And take pictures of it, so we know where we're planning on putting the sidewalks.
that's somebody got a drone, right?
Yeah, I got one in my garage.
Oh, good. So in our planning, we had said this area. Was gonna be. I don't know about the volleyball, whether it needs to be moved or what, but. You notice there aren't a lot of trails in there, because that was go hide under the shade kind of. And then some to the north of the playground for the same reason. And then it got gradually more trails and assorted picnic tables and stuff. And you had some mounds in there to try to make things a little more adventuresome. You could lie there in the south and kind of thing. So I don't know why we want to do it, but if we think this area and that area are two candidates, we ought to go out there at some point. I don't know if anybody wants to do it today. These people are wanting to donate trees now, right?
Well, I took care of the one by getting the trees that we staked out today.
Okay.
The other person Neil put me in contact with, and they wanted to do something in Just Price Park because it was Just Price's daughter. And I explained that we had a plan going forward, and that I would be willing to talk to her again and explain the plan going forward, and then see if she might like to make a donation of something else or a tree somewhere else. And she was open to that discussion. And since I just got back to town, I said I'd get in touch with her toward the end of this week and see if we could plan for her to just come to West Cliff and see what's going on, see what's planned, and see what way she might like to be part of that, whether it's an actual plant or a donation.
So, yeah, my understanding is she's got a plaque that used to be on a tree for her kin, and that tree was removed, so she's just wanting that plaque to be placed somewhere else. And then I told her, give it you because flowers are getting planted, other trees getting planted. You would be able to help her decide where's the best place to
Put the plant.
Yeah,
And if she sees
planting a tree.
yeah, if she sees the stone benches even, would an end of a bench be a possibility? Is that something that we have to go through the town again?
I asked her that, and she wasn't sure. She was thinking a plaque on a small stone or something with
Separate.
a tree that was even gonna grow or already there.
And I think, yeah, she doesn't really know what's already been done, because she hasn't been here, so that was why I invited her.
Yeah, she's been here, she
Okay.
does have the one in the area that she comes and visit that once a month or once every 2 months. So she's been in, she has seen little.
Has she? Okay, good, because she did not convey that to me over the phone. And I was thinking, why don't you come up and I'll meet you and see, we can look it over. But it's not the first time that someone has approached garden club members or when we're out saying that they'd like to donate. And some of the trees that could fall into this plan, it was Caleb's idea when he was here that possibly that would be the way to fund some of this, is to let, the population get involved and plant the tree or donate a certain amount of money for us to plant the tree. Sure. So it's just all things on the table. I don't think it's good to have a plan.
Yeah, I'm working in aerospace in the railway industry. I was involved in a million projects, and at some point, we got to come up with what we call a straw man. And when I worked in England, for some reason, they called it an Aunt Sally. And can't remember where that came from. But it's a rough outline of what you're thinking about. And it's subject to debate. There's nothing sacred about it, and you evolve it. So at some point, we need something on paper, and it'd be nice if this thing worked, because,
Tell me about it.
yeah. I mean, sometimes we used to just use it there and somebody had a laser and all that. You'd all see the same thing. So I don't know how much more talking we want to do today, but it seems to me in the near future, we got to try to come up with a strong man. And what I'm hearing is we better be careful about protecting the kitties. We don't really know if we're going to be getting much in the way of budget if the sales tax fades. So I guess I see two things. We try to rough out where these zones would be. And keep it low budge. And if we can agree on where the zones are, then Neil, maybe you can figure out, you guys, where the irrigation is and how that would affect trees, and we can get more specific with time.
So if we're planning on basically using this, we need to do a grid. So that we can mark out everything.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't have time, I forgot about, I mean, there's some measurements here, and I'm gonna try to combine them.
We need some almost the size of the map behind.
Yeah,
What I didn't see was the plan outside of the fence, north of the
yeah,
perimeter on the park, north of the baseball diamond.
I got you, yeah.
So what is planned out there? Is that what, gonna be more trees, more shade, more?
I think it got
Trail.
hung up on the stone pillars.
The arch and, a memorial within that, but that was something that I don't remember because that was the part of the discussion that Caleb was handling. And for the veteran, he had contacted the veterans.
I can look.
Yeah, and I was not part of that discussion, although I knew that I did some drawings for things that could be done around
Yeah,
the
you did,
arch
yeah,
to
you did.
bring it sort of into, to bring a walkway through it into the park.
Oh, you did a lot, actually.
Yeah, so
Is it not-
it's just, but it's in the presentation and it's in my slides, which are still on my, so I guess if you, there's specifics that you want to look at again, I can generate another program the next time we can meet. We look at specific areas and say, okay, this, we can get more pictures of what is there exactly now after the trees have been taken out. A lot of this was based on the old graphs and drawings before some trees were removed. And I just ad hoc put trees in here to designate some areas that would be treed picnic areas with a maintained center open space that could be mowed.
So you guys know there is a downloadable version of slideshow that Inc.
I have it, I
Mhm.
believe.
Yeah, 16 megs. Should get it smaller, because I had got it down to 22 or 26 or something.
It really just putting it within my PowerPoint, resized it. And then I resized some of the pictures that I had slid in at the last minute, which kicked it up.
Yeah, and I've gotten rid of some,
Yeah.
but she started from scratch again.
No, I just took what it, but what you pointed out that were so big,
Yeah,
I pulled them out, resized them, put
Okay.
them back in. So that brought, then once I, ran another PowerPoint presentation diagnostic on it, it just was
okay.
within what we could send, and they helped me send it via
Yeah.
large file downloads.
So,
Zip drive.
you had a chance to look at it much? Or-
I have, it's just, like I said, the north end was a little unclear. Well, if you're gonna do away with the baseball diamonds, delete it, then the benches in that area needs to go. You probably put a couple trees around that.
It would,
Cause that cement pads you could use to put picnic tables.
Well, we always said that we'd go in stages and that we would concentrate on the south first. So unless, my thought would be that now, what we concentrate on.
South end.
Yeah, and the
So
others.
trees are existing, you just wanna put a few more trees in there around them.
well, I was definitely around the playground and the area where the parents sit to watch their kids play.
Well, they constantly move that table around.
So you
Depending
have a-
on the day and the wind.
Yeah, so we have a better idea, and maybe, some of that should be more shrub-like plants that are of a certain, person size to be more of a windbreak down here, something we should consider. I don't know. Yeah, obviously, that's why the shelters were built in their configuration, you're blocking the view, but also blocking the wind. So,
I mean, again, this was
yeah.
just an idea in terms of where these trees are shown, just to represent them. And we always figured we'd figure it out with some care when we had the opportunity, so.
Yeah.
It just indicates treed areas, not gives you the tree trees.
Trees. And again, sheltering some of it from the wind is a super good idea with the smaller more shrubby like trees that we could put in there, like western choke cherries would be wonderful. Natives that aren't that big.
Well,
So should we maybe just each think about, if everybody had a printout of this, to think about saying, okay, I'd like to see this developed, or do we want to wait for that master plan to be in
I
print
can
and
have,
in our hands?
I can have it ready before, if you meet monthly, I can have it ready before then. Printed, I'm not sure, but I can at least have the digital version.
Okay. And then we know a little bit more about.
Sure. I had no idea that the planning group didn't seem to realize that the parks committee had come up with it. Because we had board members on vote and so I was quite surprised when Chrissy said that she had no idea that we had a plan. And
Yeah, and then one of your sheets, you talked about trying to use trees along the perimeter to block out some of the housing, look and stuff like that. Did you, some of these
Yeah.
trees that are getting donated, did you want to try to start filling that in?
There's no reason not to. I don't know what the residents, I know the residents don't want their mountain views obstructed.
yeah, the east side residents were pretty vocal about
And
it. So we sort of said we thought we'd have trees, the bigger ones would be on the west side.
correct.
Cause it also blocked the wind and provide more shade.
Yeah, and not piss off everybody that lives on Fifth Street or whatever. It's
Yeah.
Fourth.
So that way, I think that would be a great direction for us to concentrate on, if possible, assisting with what happens to the playground itself. Providing more shade for it and providing maybe the zone for additional trees along the western perimeter. Southwestern perimeter. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, sure. Randy?
Yeah.
Yep.
Trees around the edge, yeah, we could start doing that.
And again,
But we were also talking about too, straightening out parking around here too. All this is going, this is like a 10-year plan. That we're gonna have to come up with. It's just where we're gonna start and are we gonna use this as a diagram?
Sure. Well, we spent a long time developing it.
and that was what the board approved
Right.
or.
Board
Accepted.
gave us their nod.
Yes, said they liked
Yes,
it.
they.
So is there anybody here that thinks that this thing is not worthy of pursuit?
No, it's definitely worthy of pursuing. It's just, how do we pursue it in what order?
Well, I guess I'm suggesting a modest amount of trees in zone 1 to provide shade and maybe windbreak and place for some picnic tables and low budge, because I don't know what the budges are going to be in future.
Oh, yeah, you can't tell if Trump starts axing all these grants.
Yeah, I'm worried about the water.
Well, yeah, well, I didn't want to bring it up, but the more you do, the more grass you got, the more trees you got, the more water you got, higher.
Not so much this side.
Price
but
water goes.
Extend up. Here.
If they could be here, and then if we extended it out, you have the two areas separated, a few groupings of trees. Wouldn't be bad, this tree exists, so there's no reason to take that one out.
Right.
How big of a blow up can you do on this,
That's what I see,
on this right here?
and
I could print it out by 11 by 17. 11 by 17.
stone good.
Yeah.
Could you do that up?
More trees.
Yes.
I just, with,
Shading, stuff.
This
with it running this way. But not,
Landscape.
just this area here.
I got
I'd have to get out of here.
Little circle, if you put a tree, you can only shade noontime.
I was just gonna have my architectural table, I could sit down and draw this whole thing up.
Why don't you? Or you don't have it?
I don't like to get that stuff on.
It's new gonna grow right now.
Well, this is where
If something.
not having a start point.
Everything,
Yeah.
Use the lasers.
everything is now, on this.
Yeah. I used to buy these
I think
things
that would be.
for like
that would be
$5,
some-
teeny one.
You outlined over here,
Every time I fly them.
possibly, right at this corner, maybe even
It'd be confiscated.
down this perimeter.
But actually, I really regret we don't have that, because we could put the
Yeah.
picture up there.
The shelters that exist, which this one mountain does, are they forever, will they be
We also have,
upgraded or maintained?
we also have a
Is it-
version.
We're
Actually,
maintaining,
an
I
aerial
think they
version of
could be.
the park.
We had some, yeah, they were often at angles, but, yeah, I didn't print that out, but I could.
That probably wouldn't change.
Mhm.
Well, extensive work and lost.
Yeah. So how sturdy are the walls?
Real sturdy.
So you're not ever looking at replacing those?
These are the,
The
little
shelters that
windbreaks?
exist,
Pavilions that are there now.
Yeah,
because in the ideal world, if cost were no object, then to beautify them, a half wall of stone or concrete or something and a half wall of glass or lucite panels, so you can still enjoy the view.
well, the one's facing northeast, right?
Yeah, there's no views to the south or west because that's where walls are naturally to shelter from the winds.
Well, the one on Fifth, doesn't that face west? Sort of.
It's fourth, there's
Fourth.
only
Third Street, Fourth Street.
Okay, so the one on Third Street opening is facing west.
Yeah,
You got a south wall that blocks the south wind, and you've got an east wall that blocks the east wind. The other pavilion on the corner of Third and Herman
uh-huh.
is opening toward the north and toward the east.
so you've got a windbreak all the way.
Windbreak from the west wind, which 90% of ours is the west wind or the south wind,
Yeah.
and that's blocked as well.
Yeah.
And it's used a lot for birthday parties or family picnics. They get together, the Amish get together and they put up their volleyball nets close to that. They get out 3 or 4 barbecue things they bring in. A whole bunch of fold out tables, and they have a fancy big get together with that.
Do they get permits for that, or they just?
No.
They spoke to
Are they
them,
supposed to? Yes.
They should have it.
They're exempt.
But they're,
Because
I've got on to. Neil happens to be one of the guys that sets that up sometimes, and I catch him out there trying to put in their volleyball nets, and I'm like, no, you're breaking my irrigation lines. You guys didn't get permits, you didn't ask where the sprinklers are or how the lines are run. So, we could fine you and have you pay for this stuff. But,
does he just laugh?
it's their system, their church organization, so.
Is it possible to consider one of the small improvements to put limited receptacles for posts like nets for net posts?
Well, here you go. Here we go. If we designate a spot, then the grass gets
Yeah.
destroyed. And then we gotta do something because the ground's got rock in it, it's got,
And you also got the fact that now you gotta trim around all those things too. So you have to trim up high enough so that people aren't tripping over it when they're out walking, so you got
or it's gotta
problems.
be level with the ground, so they
Yeah.
can't go over it. But
yeah, it makes me think we'd be better off, what you said, Randy, get some railroad ties. Put them flush, fill the center with sand, and they can do beach.
Yeah.
Forget the rest, beach volleyball. Everybody's getting that
Bikinis.
little bikini thing, eh?
because then the town would be the ones putting in the nets permanent
Yeah,
and replacing them every time they get torn out.
Which is every year,
Yeah.
likely, with our winds.
The soccer net's been holding up for about 2 seasons.
Too.
Then we get another set,
And then that for the pickleball court,
Well, that's another
that's,
discussion, you're talking about modifying Herman Park with the bathroom, but the original plan, the bathroom, the basketball courts, the tennis courts, the pickleball courts, the little the little area for like a kitchen.
wow.
People could,
Beautiful.
cook or do whatever, that just all outside.
Well,
The
hey, Randy,
workshop is now, so I don't.
Randy, why don't we put it up there in that whiteboard? Will it fit? Is there a clip up there?
Do you guys see that? No. Okay.
It looks like a green thing. It looks like a green thing.
I was,
Put it all up on that screen, not first.
I was trying to figure out how to do this up as a grid. So you find out we've got the paths going.
Grid over that.
Well, if you took the current
Oh,
playground,
you could? How,
Just tell me like how big.
Well, hold on one sec. How long do people?
I
stay?
gotta get going.
Okay, go on.
Why don't we get the master plan on the. So we're kind of know what our parameters are, if they are our parameters, so we.
I think they should be, I mean,
There,
I don't think we should be trying to implement something if it's not part of the
Master plan.
Yeah, see, I had no idea. Nobody ever said to us last year that the planning commission was working on it. As far as I knew, we were the only.
Because what I'm afraid of is somebody
I have no
donating
idea
trees,
either.
getting his trees in the ground, you know, and then the master plan, they get a contractor in here and do like they did at Just Price and just wipe everything out and start over.
Lately, and the only way to really avoid that is to. Know that the existing playground will always be where it is, and we think, right?
We think so.
And then we can, in fact, use that as our base if someone wants to. Plant or donate a tree, the zone to me, again, likely would be around that southwest part of the playground.
Also this corner, so there's one big evergreen, if we wanted more picnic tables or. and
Which one, the
shade,
southeast, you're talking about? that?
Yeah, over by Fourth Street
Yeah,
to the
Fifth Street, and
Formerly known as Fifth Street.
yeah, down in that lower corner, there's just that one tree, and that space is pretty much not utilized for anything.
And it is a
You-
nice space, nice grassy area.
It's it grows pretty good, but if somebody wanted to plant a couple trees there or put a couple more picnic tables, you know, there is one bench that parents use, but not too much because it's typically not shaded in the afternoon. It is up to about noon and shaded, so you do find people at that bench. But if they're gonna put in, beanbag throws, that would be a spot, would it?
Well, so maybe we could have another meeting next month and possibly invite the head of the planning commission to
well,
join
I
us
think
with the.
I'm gonna talk with,
um,
Christie's on the planning, like,
I'm gonna,
it's not anymore, she's.
I need to get
on board
together,
With John,
John.
Okay.
How long do you guys gonna stay here? I mean, I'm okay, but, you know,
I'm okay, but I feel like until we really know our direction, yeah, getting there.
all right, so I'm gonna take a shot at a strong.
Okay,
I'll get the master plan ready.
Yeah, and can you just print me out anything in the master plan on that? I'm gonna look at it. And I can see what they're saying. And do some homework, and then if I can get together with the.
Yeah, then it says.
so I think we all need to, or we're all just paddling in the dark.
you can really email them the master plan, right?
Yeah, well, yes, I can,
I guess I
especially
would,
about the parts that refer to the parks, just a few like edits that need to be done, but I can. Get that, I can even tell all of you.
yeah, I didn't wanna get you in trouble if it's not been formally released.
Yeah, well, it has been approved by the board,
Oh, that's good enough, then.
it's what it takes,
Okay,
I just need to,
Have time to do it.
right, and I just really wanna, Caleb. I have to edit. The ground, yeah, some more stuff,
hard stuff.
but it's. Been approved, it's just, yeah, I thought I was gonna go through the grammar and do those couple little things and. Make it. ADA compliant so that we can put it on the website, otherwise could get sued.
So, what we really kind of need to know what's written in stone or not, so we can go forward with our part of it, this plan, but I don't think the tree issue. Now that we've talked about it, we kind of know the areas where it would be possible. So it's not a thing until someone else brings us another proposal for more trees. And just in my mind, between now and the next meeting, I think we should think about what we could logically tell someone that we're still in the works.
Well,
We don't have and that we're kind of considering it not to be a single twig donation. It has to be something of substance.
well, let me take a shot at the drawback.
Okay.
And we just circulated amongst us. Meanwhile, see what's in the master plan. And then maybe in a couple of weeks, get together again. And hopefully, if we're making any progress in that respect, like, what we're doing in the master plan aren't viciously clashing, then I think in a couple of weeks, we ought to walk out there and see where we think they ought to be. And then at some point, tell the board, this is what we recommend. And then I guess leave it to the board to come up with some rules, or maybe we advise them on what the rules would be.
I think we should advise them on what they
Well, actually like phase two, like. And then we'd be in a position where if somebody wants to donate a whole bunch of trees, we'd have a starting point. And,
And, I think that sounds great.
okay,
But if everybody agrees that this is what we're going to be using as our plan at this present time,
yes,
from basically here down.
yes. Now, we're not saying it won't mutate with time.
Well,
As we learn,
yes, it could, but once we get, if we start marking things off and then all of a sudden we start changing things, then we're back to square one. This thing started over 5 years ago.
Well, we knocked this out last year, right? I mean,
Yeah,
so I think that's why,
well, the last 2 years, yeah. So, but yeah,
yeah. Unless somebody objects.
To what?
I mean, is anybody proposing that this isn't good enough to park to grow with?
so I think this is good enough to start with. Yes.
Yeah.
There's other places we can put trees as well, right? Like other trails.
Say what?
There's other places we can put trees. The trail that goes from. Courthouse up here to the post office.
And that's more a planning commission, right, as opposed to the park
Because it's
secretary.
open space, right? It's not a park.
Yeah, that's because that's.
That's open
John
space
was
and it's in the
talking
master plan, right?
Yeah.
All those trails.
But it wouldn't be up to this advisory board, it'd be up to planning commission one.
No, but I'm just throwing it out there. If somebody's wanting to
Exactly.
donate
If they
5 trees,
Sure.
that we
Right.
don't have to
put
put
them
them
in the park.
that park.
Right.
Put 'em-
And it'd be nice to have one trail.
Oh, yeah.
The bluffs is set up, we're not in charge of the bluffs.
Right.
So, we're just in charge of,
You'd have to see the bluff committee.
Mhm.
have to go through the bluff committee.
And is the bluff committee aware of the master plan?
No, I don't even know who's on the bluff.
See, the bluffs was already allowed that one person, that one group, to put a bunch of
Oh,
trees
so
in
now,
there.
Valley,
Oh, that's,
Benches and everything else, so,
yeah, we don't have management in Bluff Town, right? It's been delegated to,
I thought it was turned over to the
It
town.
was turnovers.
it's been turned over to the town, which basically, we need to talk to Baldwin, rest of the board, it's been turned over to the town, does it get turned over to the Parks Committee,
Yeah, that's true.
I think
And it has different rules too.
because of open space.
Because of the open space. You can't put anything permanent over there. You couldn't put a pavilion over there. You couldn't put, covered picnic tables. And all that other stuff, so.
But they did plant some trees and some of those have died.
Yeah, over
the
there where
south
they
end,
put those
yeah.
benches and everything too, remember that?
Yes, some of those little ones have died. But I think there's some saplings coming up.
You got
Down
another,
in the bottom in the corners, there were evergreens planted. 3 of those died.
you got a problem.
the loop trail.
Down at the bottom.
I guess I don't know what you mean by down to the bottom, where the parking lot is?
The lower parking lot, yeah, in the washout gulch,
Yeah.
where the pond used.
Yeah,
That used to be an old smelter sitting over there. So God only knows what's down under that ground.
oh, God.
I mean, when we were leveling it out, we ran into we smashed right into the old foundation for the smelter that was over there.
So what about the area between the bluff and the bank where the picnic tables and trips are now?
Summit Park. That's Summit Park, and I believe that's part of that open space.
You know, it's included.
Yeah. Where the bathroom, right? Yeah, I think it is. Is that
See,
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we have time. Yes. I thought out though.
Sorry, I got you wet.
I'm kind of dry.
Sorry, I got you wet.
Oh, it wasn't you, it was the planter delivery. That was, it was, that's
For a little bit.
all right,
So do we want to set a time to do this again?
yeah. I don't think I particularly want to start making it a monthly thing because we're kind of just developing, so. But, what do you think, 2 weeks?
That is going to be pretty time starting for me, particularly on May 21st and 22nd is when we do the planting Main Street. So it could be before the 21st.
Well, I think I want to talk to John, I want to catch up.
I'd like to have at least a month.
I think that's a good idea too. There's a
Like,
lot going on this month.
yeah, you know,
Now we have. It's already
Gonna-
just.
you're gonna be down to you.
Just, yeah, Aaron's gonna be gone and then that next week, there's something else is happening and then it's Memorial Day,
Right.
have a couple days off and then, you know. So I think,
Let's do it after Memorial Day.
yeah, let's
Okay.
switch it off. I'll have more time to work that. I'll send it to you all now, but I'll have more time to work on it today.
Yeah.
And you'll be doing a lot of the just part stuff by that time.
Yes,
So at least we're gonna be able to see how that's looking then.
I
you know, for
do. Excuse me.
No, I was just gonna say, you know, a month would, you'll be done with that in about a month, won't you?
Yeah, and ideally for me, it would be like sometime in the week of the 9th through the 13th, June, will be my ideal.
Okay,
Planting the trees down?
Big meeting.
No, from
It's next meeting.
Oh.
No, planting the trees will happen. When the trees are in and ready to coordinate with you, because I would like to make sure that they're not outside the parameters that you set for this dirty.
we wanna make sure that somebody's over there that can patch all of it.
Have a little
All in favor?
fun. So, is it, what day of the week is best for everyone?
Yeah, I gotta look, I got all these med things coming up. I gotta,
But
Tuesdays and Wednesdays are usually the best, especially the first week and the third week.
the third week, we got
Or
board
we
meetings,
have planning commission the first Wednesday,
yeah,
and then
June 12th.
whatever.
June 12th is the second Thursday. Could also be June 5th. But that only if it were June 12th,
well,
but I'm free that entire week, so the other day works better for.
so we say until, otherwise, we'll shoot for the club.
And do we want to do morning?
I think morning's better, because you can salvage something the rest of the day. I mean, we could get this room this morning, I think, because we're seniors.
That may be still going on like June, so it may have to be in June this that day. It's a good read, we'll find out.
Yeah, let me know. We'll figure it out.
Pretty much every 18 days. It can be.
All right,
Thank you.
We're adjourned.
Thank you. Well, Chris.